Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new Ninjago video here on the channel. My name is TannerFishies. In today's video, we are going to be discussing some pretty awesome Ninjago news brought to us by the YouTube channel known as Nerd Initiative. I will be linking their channel down below in the description. Feel free to check them out if you so desire. And the reason why we are talking about them is because they have an interview up on their channel right now with Triviong, hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, the author of Ninjago Garmadon and also the Ninjago Shatterspin comic. There were quite a few things revealed in this interview that I would like to discuss and give my personal opinions on, and I will be linking this video down below as well. Would highly recommend checking it out. And yes, it is no secret that I am very excited for the upcoming Shatterspin comic series. This is a canon Ninjago storyline taking place in the past, and it ties in quite a bit to Dragons Rising Season 2. As of the time of recording, issue 1 of Shatterspin releases tomorrow, July 24th. I will be uploading my full review tomorrow as well. I will say though, before we get into what exactly was discussed in this interview, right now there are some bootlegged or pirated copies of Shatterspin issue 1 floating around the Ninjago community. I've seen some folks try to upload that to YouTube. I've seen other people spread them all over Twitter. And if you guys wouldn't mind, could we not do that, please? I would love for there to be more official Ninjago comics in the future, and the only way to ensure that is if we as Ninjago fans support these comics officially when they do officially release. So yeah, that's just my quick little PSA before we get started talking about some of the interview questions. Obviously, I will not be talking about the contents of Shatterspin until the official release tomorrow on July 24th. So keep that in mind. With that being said though, let's talk about the interview itself. Now, like I said, Triviong is indeed the author of Shatterspin. He also wrote the Garmadon comic as well. And as explained in this interview, there are a ton of differences and a ton of similarities between Garmadon the comic and Shatterspin the comic. For one, Shatterspin is said to tie into the show more than Garmadon did, which I feel like is definitely a plus for a lot of Ninjago fans that were critical of the Garmadon comic for that very specific reason. And it is true, when you look back at the Ninjago Garmadon comic, which was set after March of the Oni, allegedly supposed to tie into Ninjago Crystallized, it doesn't really do that all that much, but I don't blame the comic for that. That is more so an issue with Ninjago Crystallized as a season, not necessarily tying in what the Garmadon comic set up. The Garmadon comic is still canon at the end of the day, and we should treat it as canon, but it does not tie into Crystallized as much as I would have preferred. Shatterspin, on the other hand, is very much tying into Season 2 of Dragons Rising, which we already knew, but it's nice to get that confirmation. According to Triviong, there are quite a few moving pieces, and he made it a goal not to mess up any future plans for Ninjago, while at the same time trying to tie in Shatterspin to Dragons Rising Season 2. In other words, it's very obvious that Dragons Rising has a massive plan. Season 2 is only just one chunk of that plan. Dragons Rising will be going for several more years, and he wanted to make sure that this Shatterspin comic did not interfere with any of those future plans, while at the same time trying to tie it in as closely as possible. There's also a lot more Garmadon history being established in this comic, which I do enjoy. Garmadon is one of my favorite Ninjago characters, and it's always fun to see his history expand, especially because of how barren Garmadon's history was in the Ninjago TV series, and they talk about that here. It sounds like Triviong had a ton of creative freedom when designing this comic and writing it, designing the story, making sure that everything fit into place, and also, not to mention, expanding on Garmadon's history, while of course at the same time working within the boundaries set by Ninjago lore, because again, this is a canon storyline. It needs to fit into the already established history of the show. Also, talking more about the comparisons between Shatterspin and the previous Garmadon comic, the scope and size of Shatterspin as a comic series are reportedly a lot bigger than what Garmadon actually established for itself. But apparently Shatterspin is going to be a bigger storyline altogether, with Garmadon not only entering the wildness for the first time and exploring an entirely new realm, but also Garmadon will enter a role in which Ninjago fans have not seen him before. Trivion continued to elaborate by saying that this is Garmadon's first time taking someone under his wing, his first time actually teaching someone, which we did see Garmadon teach later on when he was older in the Ninjago TV series. Obviously, Sensei Garmadon was a thing for a while as he was actively training students, but in Shatterspin, he is younger, and this is his first time teaching these new students, whatever Garmadon will be teaching them in. Maybe Spinjitzu, maybe something else entirely. But either way, I imagine this will be a very interesting contrast to the Sensei Garmadon that we know, which was more experienced, more mellow. This is Garmadon when he is a little bit younger. His teachings are not going to be fully there, and like we saw with a younger Master Wu teaching students like Moro, it did not really go to plan. Also, elaborating more on what was said in comparison to the original Garmadon comic, the fight scenes are going to be more dynamic this time compared to the Garmadon comic, which I think is awesome because I enjoyed how the fight scenes were drawn back during the Garmadon comic. The battle sequences were very fluid. There was a ton of action surrounding every single fight. It was extremely dynamic. Shatterspin is going to be even more dynamic, which has me very excited. I'm very curious to see what the fight scenes look like in Shatterspin. I'm sure they will be amazing. Also, in comparison to not just Garmadon, but the entirety of Ninjago so far, apparently Shatterspin is taking a more dark, more mature approach to its storytelling, which I feel like is awesome to hear. Trivion mentioned that Shatterspin ages up the Ninjago storyline slightly without taking things too far, because again, this is still Lego, this is still Ninjago. You can't be super dark and violent with it, but Shatterspin is reportedly going to be more dark and more mature than other Ninjago storylines that we've seen. I, for one, cannot wait to see what Shatterspin has in terms of maturity, because I love the darker Ninjago storylines. And finally, we have one of my favorite things that was mentioned here in the interview. Trivion mentions that the Shatterspin comic is made through and through for Ninjago fans who love the series, and I think that is just a massive win for Ninjago fans. Not only are we getting some type of awesome new comic for Ninjago, it's also made with the fans in mind, which we do see for Ninjago quite a bit, but a lot of studios out there, a lot of companies that design entertainment, a lot of the fans, especially recently, come second. Not the case here. The fans are first, and this was made with Ninjago fans in mind, and I love that philosophy. I truly think that Shatterspin is going to be one of the best Ninjago storylines in quite a while, especially with everything that we've heard about it, and especially after watching this interview. I have a lot of faith in Shatterspin, and this is why I find it so important to talk about Shatterspin constantly, to mention to Ninjago fans that Shatterspin exists. This is something for us, guys. I think it is important to read it and support it officially, and I, for one, cannot wait for tomorrow to finally read issue number 1 of Shatterspin. I think it's going to be incredible. So with that being said, that'll pretty much wrap it up here surrounding my thoughts on this interview. Once again, I will be leaving a link to the channel Nerd Initiative and also a link to the video itself down below in the description. I would highly encourage you to check them out when you can, and also be sure to check out the Shatterspin comic when it releases officially tomorrow. Like I said, I will be uploading my full review of issue number 1, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning into this video right here. As a longtime Ninjago fan, all of this has me pretty excited, not gonna lie. Leave all of your thoughts down below, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed this one, feel free to like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you guys again very, very soon.